Amazing.
Welcome to the King of Iron Fist Tournament 7.
Welcome to the King of Iron Fist Tournament.
New challenger.
Oh man, it's so far. Oh, that's not bad.
New challenger. Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight. Great. Round 2. Fight. next battle.
I'm gonna bury you!
Round one. Fight. KO. Round two. Fight. KO. Round three. Fight. KO. Round four. Fight. KO.
I'm number one! I'm number one!
Get ready for the next battle. Round one. Fight. KO. Round two. Fight. KO. Round three. Fight. Round 4. Fight. Challenger. Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight. Round 3. Fight.
Yo, thanks for the follow, man. Goku Black Double. Thanks for the follow. Welcome to the stream. I think so. Yeah. But I don't usually use Brian. I don't know how to use them. How are you doing, man? Hey, do you main Brian? Or perhaps do you still play Tekken 7?
Get ready for the next battle.
I reckon Nee is still using Brian though. If you saw the videos from his training with Pakistani players, he was using Steve and Brian. It's about time, bro. I mean, he's still on the top tier, if I remember it correctly. Although they are kind of one of the challenging characters to use. I mean, I really want to go for a Mishima, but I just don't know how to use the. I just don't know how to do the wave dash. That's why I'm just trying another characters instead. No. Why is it so small? But that geese nerf though, he now irrelevant. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that definitely I think so, because before that I always see geese. I always encounter geese and Akuma. But right now I can't seem to find him. Yeah, definitely that's gonna probably happen sooner. And did you know that they're gonna probably nerf Negan as well? I mean, what the heck? I'm such a trash. I'm such a trash.
This is your fate.
Get ready for the next battle.
As much as I really wanted to use Mishimas, but that wave dash is so hard, you know? Yeah, me too. Me as well.
Round 1.
Yo, how are you doing, bro? Shout out to Yobs. I'm pretty hyped up with Leroy as well. I mean, I can't wait. He should be out already. They said that it's going to be out in December. Yeah, Pinoy na Pinoy. Di mo nakita?
KO. Round 3. Fight.
What's up, Yops? Pinoy ka pala, Goku eh.
Fight.
Oh, what the heck? Kaya ba ni AK sa SEA Games? Tingin ko kaya, men. Magaling naman si AK eh. Hopefully, yeah. What the heck? Di ko kaya ni AK, men. Siguro ano lang. Meron naman sigurong gumagamit ng mga higher tier, pero yun nga, hindi nakakaabot dun sa finals. Nagkataon lang siguro.
New challenger.
Ano na ba ngayon ang may bagong tier list na ba ngayon?
Get ready for the next battle.
Yops, ano ibig sabihin ng Shoutcaster pa 2-in-1? What are you saying, man? Laro tayo ng Tekken ngayon, then later on Modern Warfare naman. Wala nang PUBG, men eh. Dead game. Goku, sana nga may may live streaming nung SEA Games.
Round 1.
I wanna watch it.
Fight.
Ooh, late. Nope. Oh. So laggy.
KO. Round 2. Fight.
Laggy. Laggy match. Gusto mo ganyan, ha? Nope.
Great. Round 3. Fight.
What? Okay, nice. Perfect.
Round 4. Fight.
3 bars ka pala eh. What the heck? Ayaw. Kainis naman yun. Ganti tayo, ganti. Pambihirang si Yopsy to. Drop and go lang.
Round one.
Ko-comment, di naman mag-stay. What the heck? Lagi match. Ah.
KO. Round two. Fight.
Ayaw talaga.
KO. Round three.
Yan, naging 4 bars siya.
Fight.
What? Epical. Nakakainis. Ah!
KO. Round four. Fight.
Nag-sweep yan.
KO. You lose.
Basura.
Get ready for the next battle.
Him. So, looks like I'm gonna have to go back to Katarina.
Perfect. Round two. Fight.
Mali.
KO. Round three. Fight.
Ba't nag-sidestep ako?
Great. You win. Get ready for the next battle.
Yopsy! Diyan ka pa ba? What time ba ngayon sa Pinas? It's 12. At gising pa kayo. Mga halimaw.
Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight.
What the? Ayaw.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight. KO. You win.
Skeletor!
Time.
Get ready for the next
Oh,
battle.
I needed to charge my mouse din pala. Sorry.
Round 1. Fight.
Heck.
KO. Round 2. Fight.
Oh! It's lagging. Ah, mali.
KO.
Ba't ganun? Why?
3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight.
Nope. Lagging.
KO. You win.
Time for a nap.
Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight.
Nice. Seriously. Eh. Ah, it's so lagging. 3 bars. Ah, 3 bars.
KO. Round 2. Fight.
3 bars, man. Ah, crap. Oh shit. That lag.
KO. Round 3. Fight.
Ah, what? Ah, shit. What the heck? Why am I grabbing? Ah, putol!
You lose.
Go back to 4 bars.
Get ready for the next battle.
I'm gonna bury you.
Round 1. Fight.
Why am I not moving now? Ah, what the heck? Wala.
Perfect. Round 2.
Ang hirap.
Fight.
What the? Ha, lag.
KO. Round 3.
Ayan, 4 bars.
Fight.
What should I have? Seryoso?
Perfect.
Wala akong ginawa dun.
Get ready for the next battle.
Somebody save me. Don't care how you doing, just save me.
I'm gonna bury you.
Round 1.
Ah, wala na tuloy ang promotion.
Fight.
Ha, lag.
KO. Round 2. Fight.
What? Why is so delayed? What the heck with this?
Perfect. Round
What's going on?
Fight.
Seriously, I wasn't able to parry that. It's so obvious.
KO. You lose. ready for the next battle.
There was no one, no one, no one, no one, no one. Alright, let's take it seriously. We're gonna be serious now. Super serious.
Bury you.
Round one. Fight.
Why is so... Really can't do anything about this. I had to literally... Uh-huh.
Fight.
What the heck? Oh man! Choop.
KO. Round three. Fight.
Ah, so laggy! Ah, so laggy! So laggy!
I'm number one. I'm number one.
Get ready for the next battle. Round one. Fight.
Why did I jump? Ah, he drops the 2 bars. Oh. What the heck? That lag though. I'm dead.
Round
It's not working out properly.
fight.
Nice jump to 2 bars, then I jump. Oh, 2 bars again.
KO. Round three. Fight.
Yeah, 4 bars. I moved. No.
KO.
doesn't work. Na threat pa rin, threat pa rin. Korean is still Korean. They have their own styles. Pero grabe yung Pakistani players ngayon, no? Kung kita mo yung kung paano binalasubas niya, no? Ni The Johnson Ni with his Marduk. Jeez. Jesus.
Get ready for the next battle.
Una nung napanood ko yung Oo, pre. Oh, actually marami naman na talagang malalakas sa Pakistani. It's just that Arslan nauna siyang kumbaga sumikat. Pero ang grabe ng characters nila. Unang parang unang lumabas is yung Dajan yung kalaban niya si Dakuma. Tragis yan. Na lang eh. Tapos ngayon, pinakita na naman ni Dajan si Ni. Tang inang Marduk yan. Under... What the heck? Oh. I hate that button.
Round 2. Fight.
Nice one. Mr. Naps?
Round 3. Fight.
Sino ba Sa ba yan? Sa SEA Games? Hindi ko pa narinig yung Mr. Naps. Well, hindi naman kasi ako sumusubaybay talaga kung sino yung mga players eh. Nakikita ko lang yung mga replays. No problem, man. It was just so laggy. Dynamic, no problem. I had to end the match because it was so laggy and it's unplayable on my side. Yeah, it was so laggy on my side. I can't even predict. I can't even parry or the sweep, Lily sweep.
I'm gonna bury you.
Yeah.
Round 1. Fight.
Oh, dudes. I'm in the UK, bro. So we're kind of far, really. Oh shit! I drop it.
KO. Round 2. Fight.
Ah, crap. Who's Adolf? Yeah, see, thanks for dropping by the stream. No problem as well.
Round 3. Fight.
Thanks for the follow, man. I appreciate it so much. And once again, thanks for dropping by the stream. Ah, si J... Goku si ano? Jimmy J. Tran. Si Brian. I think he's the #1 Brian right now. Pero Pakistani player said that meron daw silang ibang ano, the something. Kalimutan ko yung anong pangalan. Meron silang Brian user. Mas malakas daw kay ano, Jamie J. Tran. I don't know yet.
Fight.
Take care, dude. Take care. Thanks for dropping by the stream. And once again, thanks for the follow. Oh. Oh.
KO. Round 2. Fight.
Sure. Just send me an invite.
KO. Round 3. Fight.
Nope. No, drop it.
You win.
Just send me an invite, man. Maybe next time we can play. I hope it's not that laggy anymore.
Get ready for the next battle.
And was Lily your main character?
Round 1. Fight.
Why did I jump? No, what?
KO. Round 2. Fight.
Ah, shit. What the heck? Ah.
You lose. Get ready for the next battle.
Oh yeah. Why? What's the problem with your PC? Have you tried lowering the graphics?
Round
I
one.
mean, if you don't usually play with 20 FPS, there's probably this a malware or something. A process is running. Oh, you mean you have a 2070 Super right now,
Round two.
and you're still lagging? Have you installed the driver? Ah, it's just waiting.
KO.
But my RAM is on single, not dual channel. Why I could...
KO.
I'm number one. I'm number one.
No problem at all.
Get ready for the next battle.
Probably that means you're gonna have to buy a motherboard as well. Or perhaps you can probably get a new PC.
Round one. Fight.
How old is your PC, by the way? 11. I think it's not that bad. Yeah, you really need to upgrade now.
Round two. Fight.
It's just waiting. Nah.
KO.
Prince?
Round three.
Nothing.
Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight.
Why do I keep...
KO. Final round. Fight.
Why do I keep always doing that?
You lose.
Yeah, I think you really speak later, dude, at me if you want. Sure, sure. I will. I will send you an invite after this. Perhaps I'm gonna send you. Is there any way that I can invite you through my friends, through my mobile?
I'm gonna bury you.
Round 1. Fight.
Well, how are you?
Daddy,
What's going on?
KO.
Okay.
Round 2.
I'll fix that later. Why do I keep doing that? I saw. What are you doing? Oh, what?
KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight.
That's kind of annoying, really.
Final round. Fight.
No. Why am I? What are you eating?
Get ready for the next battle.
I'm gonna bury you.
Round one. Fight.
Daddy,
Hmm.
I'm still hungry. Daddy,
Hmm.
I have more Doritos.
Round two.
I don't know. I don't know yet.
Take it.
Hang on. After this one.
I'm hungry.
Hang on, Prince.
Daddy, that's making me sad.
You can eat the Doritos there.
Huh?
You can eat my Doritos.
No, but it's hot.
It's not that hard.
The Doritos,
Hmm.
Daddy, the red one,
Yeah, it's not that hard.
is that spicy?
No.
Is it spicy?
It's not that. It's not that spicy.
Huh? What?
It's not that spicy.
KO. Round four. Fight. KO. Final round. Fight.
I thought it's spicy! Daddy, it's spicy!
It is?
Yeah.
Really?
Lose.
I guess we don't have Doritos anymore.
Get ready for the next battle.
But I'll check. I'll check there if you want. Is it really that spicy?
Yeah, I feel it's spicy.
Let me try.
Is that yummy?
Mm-hmm.
No, but I don't like it.
Round one.
Yeah, I'll check it.
Fight. KO. Round two. Fight. Round 3. Fight.
Daddy, come on with
Get ready for the next battle.
That's how I control animatronics. I am the game master. I have to control animatronics. I can only control Toy Freddy, Toy Chica, Toy Bonnie, and Purple Freddy. That's what other people that you can control. That sounds good. As for Foxy and Golden Freddy, there are 2 buttons of them, and when I press the buttons, there's going to be a random
It's the last one.
I'm gonna bury you.
Round 1. Fight.
Careful.
KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight. 4. Fight. KO. Final round. Fight. Get ready for the next battle.
What's that behind you? What's it? What? I'm just messing with you. Oh, there's really something. Is it Purple Freddy?
Round 1. Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight.
What the heck?
KO. Final round.
it.
If I were you, I would.
It was it.
Here, put it in the table.
Welcome to the King of Iron Fist Tournament 7. Katarina Alves.
I can only control Doi Freddy, Doi Chica, Doi Bonnie, and Purple Freddy. That's an unequal. Alright, scroll. That sounds good. As with Foxy and Gold Freddy, there are two buttons. And when I press the buttons, there's gonna be
New challenger. Get ready for the next battle.
Shining hose. If I saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the reindeers.
Round 1. Fight. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. You win.
Você tem técnica, mas não tem alma.
What do we do? Want to take it? Daddy, do you want to take it?
Thank you.
Thanks.
New challenger.
Deixa eu te testar pra ver se você luta de verdade.
Round 1. Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight.
Hmm?
Wheel.
W
I did W. What's next? What's next? What's next?
E-E-L.
KO.
Daddy,
Round
like
4.
the wheel on the bus.
Fight.
Yeah, W-E-E-L. W-H.
How can I spell wheel? Daddy,
W-H-E-E-L.
Final round. Fight. Perfect.
Vai de volta pra sua mamãe.
on the wheel.
Get ready for the next battle.
On the wheels on a bus go.
Deixa eu te testar pra ver se você luta de verdade.
Round 1. Fight.
How can I spell round?
R-O-U-N-D.
Fight.
What's next? What's next?
R-U-O-U-N-D.
KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight.
Vamos lá. Eu vou jogar sua bunda até o inferno.
Round one. Fight. KO. Round two. Fight. KO. Round three. Fight. KO. Round four. Fight. KO. Final round. Fight. Get ready for the next battle.
Let's go round and round, round and round.
You got this. I believe in you.
Round,
What's that behind you? What's it? What?
round and round.
Vamos lá. Eu vou.
Round one. Fight.
Now we will on the bus go round and round, round and round. And round
KO. Round two. Fight. KO. Round three. Fight.
the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round.
ready for the next battle.
The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round.
Round one. Fight.
How can I spell through? I did throw.
Hmm?
Can I spell through? I did throw.
What through?
Through.
Throw?
Round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through.
Through. Throughgh.
Round two. Fight.
I didn't show you.
Thr.
Oh. What's next?
KO.
O
Round
U
You.
fight.
GH.
KO. Round four. Fight.
Daddy, 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 is that town right? Daddy.
TOWN.
Oh.
KO. You win.
Você está me dando sono.
Get ready for the next battle.
Deixa eu te testar pra ver se você luta de verdade.
Round one. Fight.
Daddy, Daddy, this makes sense. Daddy, this makes sense. Look, the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town.
Yep.
KO. Round three. Fight. KO. Round four. Fight. Perfect.
Corre de volta pra sua mamãe.
challenger. New challenger. Get ready for the next battle.
The wheels on the bus. Daddy. Daddy.
Mm.
Look.
Good job.
The wheel on the bus. The wheel on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round all through the town. Daddy, Daddy,
Mm.
you can get it from the machine,
Mm-hmm.
and you get a page.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. On the bus go round and round, round and round, round and
Vamos lá. Eu vou chutar sua bunda até o inferno.
Round 1.
Daddy,
Fight.
Daddy, Daddy.
Mm.
I think our machine is fixed. Daddy, Daddy, I think our machine is fixed.
Yeah.
With ink.
Oh no.
Oh. I think it might work.
No.
Where is
It's-
it? Where is it?
It's in the bedroom, I think.
My bedroom?
It's already stuck.
Some,
Round 2.
can you open it and
Fight.
see what's inside?
I already opened it, remember?
Daddy, I start you playing. You follow me. Okay? Daddy,
Mm.
take it so long.
KO.
It will not work, Prince, because we don't have ink.
3. Fight.
Check it. Daddy, do you got it out?
No. It doesn't have ink, remember?
We need a put ink. We need something to make ink.
No, ink is expensive.
No, not in the shop. We need something to make ink.
We don't have that.
Maybe someone uses their weed.
Hmm?
You win.
Maybe someone uses their
Você
weed
está me dando
and we
sono.
can get ink.
No. It's different. It's a different ink. The only way to you get it is you need to buy it from the stores.
How much is it?
It's around 20 pounds each. You can send it. You can save it there and send it to mommy. Mommy will print it.
What?
You can save it and send it to mommy, and mommy will print it
Até o inferno.
in the office.
Round
Mommy
1.
can buy it?
No, mommy can print it in the office.
What? Page?
Hmm.
When someone donates a machine, someone will give it to us.
Oh yeah. That if we can find someone.
But Daddy,
Hmm.
maybe we need to get a new machine.
Round 2.
Maybe.
Fight.
You know what? We didn't know what. How much is it?
£100.
Huh?
100 pounds.
100?
Uh-huh.
It's not 100.
It is.
I think not.
What? How do you know?
I think it is short. I think it is 10 pounds. I didn't know how. Not 100. Let's check it on the
KO.
store.
Hmm?
How much
Round
of the
3.
machine is it?
Fight.
Yeah, we'll check it.
Yeah. Daddy?
Hmm. Well, we don't have money. Where? Oh, that's not enough.
4.
Your money is not enough.
Fight.
Daddy,
Hmm.
Daddy, how much is it?
It's 100. And your money is only how much?
It's not, I think it's not 100. Daddy,
Hmm.
doesn't know how much is it. It's not 100.
KO. Final round.
Daddy,
We can check it.
Fight.
no, but I need you.
We can check it soon.
When did it check it now?
How, Prince? It's already night.
After you play.
KO.
Where can we check? It's already night. The stores is already closed.
Você está me dando sono.
No, we're not going to the store here.
Where? Where are we going?
What's wrong?
Where are we
We're
going?
not going somewhere. We're going to the bedroom.
Bedroom. Out there?
Yeah, my bedroom.
Ah. Oh,
Check it.
even if we check it now, we won't. It won't do anything because it's broken. Remember?
Round 1.
So wow.
No, the paper won't come in.
Huh?
The paper won't even come in. The paper does not come inside the printer.
What?
It doesn't accept paper.
KO.
Have you saved it?
Round
Just save it.
KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight. KO. Final round. Fight. win.
Você está me dando sono.
Get ready for the next battle.
Hello everyone, my name is Vintage and welcome to a new Minecraft video. We are back in the SCP world. What's up SCP-173? He doesn't talk to me, I don't know why. He always talks to Dark Corners, but
Vamos lá. Eu vou chutar sua bunda até o inferno.
Round 1. Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight. KO.
Corre de volta pra sua mamãe. Vamos lá. Eu vou chutar sua bunda até o inferno.
Round 1. Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight. KO. You lose. New challenger. New challenger. Get ready for the next battle.
So I was like, oh no, you didn't. And then she was like, OMG, no, that was like so rude of you to interrupt us like that. Like, so rude. Don't you ever like do that again. Hey, sorry. Sheesh, you got it so angry about it. Sorry. It's just so like boring around here, and talking is like the only thing you can do for like entertainment.
Well, consider that problem solved.
Vamos lá. Eu vou chutar.
Non c'è spazio per i diletti.
Round 1. Fight.
Osserva. Osserva.
KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight. KO. Final round. Fight. KO. You win.
Você tem técnica, mas não tem alma.
Get ready for the next battle.
Vamos lá. Eu vou.
Round 1. Fight. Acerta. KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight. KO. Final round. Fight. KO. You
Che la luce di Sirio disperda le tenebre.
get ready for the next battle.
Oh, your hand is actually on fire, but it's part of your skin. That's and you smell.
Round 1. Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight. KO.
farmi perdere tempo. Vattene.
Round one. Fight.
Il mio potere.
Great. Round two. Fight. All set. All set. KO. Round three. Fight. All set.
Che la luce di Sirio disperda le tenebre.
Get ready for the next battle.
Non farmi perdere tempo. Vattene.
Round one. Fight. All set.
Il mio potere.
KO. Round two. Fight. All set. KO. Round three. Fight. round. Fight. All set. KO. You lose.
Niente male.
Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight.